Hey guys, welcome back to the fourth week of Checkerboard Chat. I'm your fearless sports editor, Trenton Duffer, along with the assistant sports editor, Harvey, and our contributor, Damichael Cole. Damichael has been with us for, your second year? Second year. He's written a lot of great soccer stories. He's written a lot of, what else have you written while you've been here?
I did a swimming and diving feature. I did a lot of tennis, men and women. So,
yeah, and we're bringing Damichael in with some football here and there, and he's the soccer beat writer right now. He's doing a lot of good with the Beacon. Rob can attest to that.
Yeah, he's doing a great job, I think.
Yeah, good job, Damichael. So I guess the first thing we can talk about here is the just dullard of a game on Saturday. Like,
it was brutal, man. I'm telling you,
yeah.
I just
definitely hard to watch.
I couldn't take it. Like, I mean, it's just like I said, it was worse than Appy State, honestly, because it's just like there was no flow. It was just kind of just so boring. You know, noon didn't help. You know, everyone was tired. It was just really boring.
Yeah, I've never been a fan of noon kickoffs. Just because it's like it's in the middle of the day, and you really
it's hot.
Yeah, it's hot, and the sun's like in the top of the sky. So, I mean, there's really no avoiding it unless the sun starts setting and you're in that part of the end zone or the stadium where, it's shady. But, I mean, it was just, I don't know. There was a lot of things wrong with the game just from like a player standpoint, and we'll get into that later. But the flow just was so slow. That first quarter felt like it took an hour and a half. Yeah,
like, I mean,
it did.
And I'm sure you saw it on TV. I'm sure the commercials, it just felt like they kept going.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, like, I was trying to just stay into the flow of them, but every now and then I just find, okay, I got to switch to another game.
Because, exactly. And I don't blame you.
Yeah, and like as a Vol fan, as a football fan, really, you should never reach that point in a game where, even if it's a game as close as this one was, you should never reach that point to where you're just like, all right, I'm going to turn it to another game.
When's this going to end?
When's this
It got
game
to that
end?
point. It was like, oh, you got to be kidding me. Like, there's still another quarter left in this? Like,
it
was brutal, man.
I mean, after that first quarter, you felt like, well, it's halftime, but you still had a whole other second quarter to go, and you should never reach that point to where you don't. It's normal to turn it during the commercials, but when you're sitting there and you turn the channel during the game, you're just it's dull. But I guess the main struggle from Saturday was the offensive line.
Yeah, definitely the offensive line. They're struggling right now, and it doesn't seem like they can find a five right now that's really can match, but something they have to get over, especially with these next few weeks coming up.
Yeah, and Drew Richmond, after starting and playing most of the first two games, played about 2 drives, and then they took him out. And, he didn't start. They started Kendrick and Coleman Thomas was in the center, Wiseman was the center, and they had Jack Jones in there, which I thought was good. Jack Jones was the lone bright spot for the offense line. I thought he played really well. But, I mean, there was one play where they that somebody posted on Twitter, and they showed it that Coleman Thomas, it was a sack. It was one of Dobbs. Dobbs got sacked 3 times. And Coleman Thomas, he acted like he just started blocking, and then he just stopped, and the guy just went right around him, and it was embarrassing.
Yeah, and you said that Jones was one of the only bright spots. I've noticed Ja'Shawn Robertson's actually he's done well, but at the same time, he was, I think, 3rd team All-SEC preseason. So
you expect him to do better than he's doing.
You really expect him to step in there and take that leadership role a little bit more. And I don't feel like he's really done that this year so far. And I don't know.
I don't know. It's just a lot of confusion right now,
Yeah.
and I think you could finally sense that it hit Butch because he came in there. Usually, Appy State's a good football team, Virginia Tech's a good football. He was not. He just kind of seemed exasperated. He just he didn't know what to do because his team just consistently is just underachieving.
And it gets you to thinking maybe it's a chemistry thing with all the mixes and matches. So.
Right.
I mean, if they can get a set 5, maybe they'll play better.
And I think getting Chance Hall back will really help. I know he's still a couple weeks off, but he held them together last year, even as just a freshman when players were getting hurt. Ja'Shawn got hurt and Matt Crowder got hurt. And, he kind of held them together at that time. So having him injured is really messing with them, and they're having to play people at different positions that they don't really want to right now.
Yeah, and I've heard some people on social media say stuff like this, but they've said that the Vols play to the level of their opponent.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And I agree with that statement just because, just look at what, we've seen for the first 3 weeks. I mean, Appalachian State was a team that just got blown out by Miami.
At home.
At home. I mean, that's what – and, all those pieces that really – I mean, Marcus Cox, I don't think he had –
he didn't do anything
at all. Like, I think he had maybe 50 yards, something like that.
I mean, Miami's a good team, but still.
Yeah, I mean,
Tennessee's ranked, 5 or 10 spots higher than that?
Yeah, and Tennessee is ranked so much higher than Miami, and they were at home. There was the home opener, 102,000 people there, and they laid an egg, really. And then Virginia Tech comes in, and I think they were playing at the level of Virginia Tech to start the game, but by the second, third quarter, they kind of woke up and played.
And I mean, turnovers had to.
And the turnovers really hurt.
Because
Virginia
they
Tech.
gave them. They gave them 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, I mean
fumbles.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That one where they fumbled the snap or that snap went over his head and Tuttle raced down there. I mean, that was good hustle, but still, they had 2 yards to score a touchdown.
Right.
Yeah, and Dobbs scored 5 or 6 touchdowns in that game, and he didn't even eclipse 100 yards.
He had 91 passing yards.
I mean, you don't get that kind of touchdown success and only throw 91 passing yards. You just don't, unless you're a receiver who runs a reverse and then just tosses throws a 91-yard bomb or something, something weird like that. So, yeah, there were a lot of struggles.
Preston Williams, Dobbs, you see, he has an interception, but it wasn't his fault. Ball literally hit Preston Williams in the hands, hit him in the head, and then bounced up in the air. It's like and Ethan Wolf dropped an easy touchdown pass too at the start of the game. It's like you gotta be able to hold on to those balls. I see a lot of people bashing Dobbs, and I don't know. I feel like Dobbs is making the most with what he has. Like he had 206 passing yards through 2 nice touchdown passes. Josh won. Those were both really nice passes, and he ran for about. I think it ended up being 56 total, but he gained 85 yards without the sack yards that he lost. So, I mean, I thought he played. He scored a touchdown, rushing touchdown too. I thought he played pretty well with what he has to deal with.
Yeah, and I think he had 8 incompletions on the day. I want to say something like that, or 8 or 9.
Or, I mean, it was 19 for 27.
Yeah, something along those lines. So he had 8 or 9 incompletions, and, of course, one of those was the interception, which wasn't his fault.
One of those was the drop touchdown, which wasn't his fault.
Yeah, and that really didn't come back to hurt the Vols, I felt, because
then they scored
threw that
20-yard
bomb to Malone.
Plus the hurries. I mean,
and the hurries. I mean, you can't blame Dobbs for
throwing the ball in the dirt
when he's 4 guys are rushing towards him.
Exactly.
So it really all falls back on the offensive line. If the offensive line gets Dobbs more time in the pocket, he'll have more time to make throws and maybe even more time to scramble, and because that's what he's good at. He's good at scrambling out and finding open lanes and making passes.
Right. Yep. And I think we've talked about offense here. Defensively, I thought they played pretty well. I mean, only 88 rushing yards to a dual threat quarterback and he was a 5th-year senior and a pretty good running back in that Poppy White, I think was his name.
Yeah.
And I thought, injuries were just the.
No, yeah, it was Poppy White.
Injuries just kind of hit him hard. With Sutton going down first quarter. Butch said he's going to miss extended time. It didn't look good. He was writhing in pain there. And then Reese Maben went down second quarter. I thought it was a concussion because he kind of looked like he was out of it, and they took away his helmet. Yeah. And he was just sitting by himself on the bench. But Butch said it was a shoulder, but he said he should be ready for next week. So I'm thinking maybe he just popped it out.
Yeah. How did the TV handle injuries and stuff? Were they very?
Yeah, they were definitely pretty saying it. All the defensive injuries were getting pretty much the attention pretty much. But I think the defense, they'll be all right. Yeah. But if you look at it, if you go more in depth with it, basically the defense, they had a lot of injuries. Plus, so when you have a lot of injuries, then you have depth issues. Right. And the offense had they had a lot of short drives. Yeah. So when you have a lot of short drives, the defense is constantly coming back onto the field,
and that gets the players temperature. Tired. It was hot,
exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
So the defense did what they could do pretty much in those circumstances.
Right. And I thought Colton Jumper played well for the most part. He's slow.
Yeah, we dogged him last week.
I apologize, Colton. If you're listening, but I kind of dogged him. But I thought he played okay. There were some where it was What are you doing? But,
Yeah.
there was a screen pass where he just got outrun and then just got obliterated on the block. But,
Yeah.
he had 7 tackles and second in tackles on the team, a tackle for loss, made some good plays, had some good coverage. So I think, they definitely missed Kirkland being the general because, you did see some confusion. Like Kelly had to run up and tap Colton Jumper or somebody on the back and tell him, hey, tell them this because he wasn't doing it. So, I think he played okay, but I think next week will be a real big question what they will do.
Yeah, and that's really our next point of focus is Florida week.
Woo!
And that's always a point of emphasis when you talk about really any Vol season since the early 90s because I think Florida became a constant year-by-year opponent in 91, I want to say.
And they became actually relevant.
They became
it became a rivalry in around mid 90s because there were some of those games in the early
Both
90s
of them were pretty good around that time.
Right.
Yeah.
And so Spurrier kind of put them on the map and
he
challenged
did.
Tennessee a lot.
He did. He did for Florida what Fulmer did for Tennessee.
Right, exactly.
So Florida's always been a staple in Tennessee's season, and this year's not any different. And this year is definitely one of the weirdest matchups between the two teams in the past few
You really
years.
just don't know what's going to happen,
Yeah.
especially since Sutton got hurt. You're going to have a freshman back there for Tennessee and Balin Buchanan, who played well yesterday.
He did.
But you've got a transfer quarterback for Florida now having to step up because Luke Del Rio got hurt. And
He's
I don't know.
out 2 weeks.
I don't know if y'all
before.
saw that hit, but it was a cheap shot. Like he threw the ball, and then like a couple seconds later, like he hit his knee. It looked bad.
McElwain said that too. He said
McElwain had to be
Yeah.
restrained too because he was trying to go after the ref because they didn't kick him out of the game. They just called it unnecessary roughness.
And you don't want to see a player go down, even if it is like a big rival like that. You want to beat your rival when they're at the peak of like performance, when they are at their best.
I think
and you beat them, it just feels more.
I think Tennessee really doesn't matter to them anymore if they're at their best or not. I think they just want to beat them. They just want to beat them.
Yeah, I think if half of the offense and defense just didn't show up to the game, I think Tennessee would be like, all
would
right,
be
we'll
okay.
take
Hey,
this.
we beat 'em,
We'll take this.
But it'll be interesting. Like Florida's defense is really good. As much as I hate to say this, just because the guy's a punk, Jalen Tabor.
Oh.
Excuse me, I don't know what his name is. I don't know what to call him. He's good. Like he is really
he's
good.
locked down.
And I mean, he's not afraid to tell you that. I don't know if you saw last night. Right before the snap, he walked up to hit the guy he's covering, did not even reached over the line of scrimmage before the ball snapped and started clapping in his face, and then put his hands back right before they snapped the ball. It was like he does not care at all, and so I don't know. I just feel he's good, and he's gonna. They'll put him on Malone, and It'll be interesting because Malone's played a lot better now. Like Malone was very inconsistent last season.
Yeah, definitely.
And he dropped a few passes, like touchdown passes last year, but he's catching everything this year.
Right.
Yeah, and something that's really going to stink about this Florida game is the student tickets.
Man.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, I've heard that a lot of
I
students.
hear it's over.
It's been a lot of
400. 400. No, I hear it's over 4,000 students did not get tickets,
Golly.
which is honestly ridiculous.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I don't like that. I mean, we don't have to worry about it. Did you get a ticket, Damichael?
I was one of those students that did not get
You did not get a ticket.
Yes.
I mean, it doesn't make a lot of sense. I understand why they do it because they kind of benefit the people who have gone to more sporting events.
Right.
But at the same time, half the senior class who tried to get tickets did not get tickets, and that is not fair at all.
No, it's not.
That's just not fair. And these games, as much as everyone talks about it, these games are for the students. Like the students, they go here. I know alumni. This was their school, but the students go here right now. Like they are classmates with these people, and yet they're not getting a ticket to go. And they're gonna have to try and buy like $180 ticket on StubHub.
They're the ones making most of that noise anyway.
Right,
So.
Exactly.
They're not the people out yelling "sit down" because somebody stands up on a key third down. It's like, oh, I can't see.
Yeah, and I don't know. It's just like you said, the students are the ones making most of the noise at these games.
Exactly.
They're the ones who are really just. I mean, you remember, I'm not going to say it on here, but you remember the chant a couple years ago. You probably don't.
Yeah, no, I was there.
Oh, you were there?
Yeah, I was there with my family.
The explicit "You Florida."
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a chant that was started by the student section. And,
Will Muschamp loved that one.
Oh, yeah, and some of you upperclassmen that are listening, you can remember the email we received from Jimmy Cheek about etiquette in the stadium. And,
I think these students are ready.
Oh,
and,
they
now
are.
they're not, half of them aren't going to get to.
It's going to be crazy.
See it.
It is going to be crazy.
I said this all week. I think no matter what, I think Knoxville's going to burn to the ground, win or lose.
It will because I mean, if they win, if the Vols win, then that's the monkey off your back.
Yeah.
That's the gorilla off your back, really. Because that's been a thing for as long as I can remember. Is Florida beats Tennessee. I was 9 years old the last time.
I'm pretty sure because it was a 7:30 game anyway. I'm pretty sure I went to bed before Will Hoyt made the field goal in 2004 to beat them. I don't remember it. The first memory I really have, is 2006 when Florida won by a point. It was a great game, and I don't know. I feel like in my lifetime, I've just always seen Florida beat Tennessee, and it just gets crazier each year. Last year, you think about it, it just gets so crazy.
And that's the story for a lot of students is they don't remember a time when Tennessee beat Florida. Like we can all vaguely remember the field goal here in Neyland that Vols won 30-28, but we don't it's not fresh on our minds. What's fresh on our minds is the 28-27 loss last year. The 10-9 loss 2 years ago.
That game was just
when they started Trayon Harris, and you're thinking
you're laughing because he's just so bad, and then he just runs right around the corner, and it's he's gone.
Right sideline.
There it goes.
And
even in
and then
one of the Dooley years, I can't remember what year exactly, but 2012 because it was the last time College Game Day was here. Everybody's like, "Oh yeah, we're gonna storm the field and we beat them," and then they're winning the whole game. A.J. Johnson ran into the end zone on one of on his Wildcat things, but then two passes to the tight end, go 60 yards for touchdowns. The next thing you know, they're up by 10 points, and it's like, well. Here it comes again. So.
And I don't want to relive the Tebow years.
Oh boy,
because those
I remember those. I was at those games.
It was fun to watch Eric Berry go up against Tebow, but
that was the only fun thing about those games. Let me tell you, those were horrible. Those, it was bad, man.
And so they were really bad, and I don't know. I hope things are different. I try
for the fans' sake. I hope things are different, just because I know what they've been through. It's just year after year, And
there's so much optimistic this year. A lot of fans say, "This is the year. This is the year." Yeah. Of course, there have been years in the past. That's where the heartbreak comes from. But a lot of people, the feels like '98 thing, and a lot of people say this is the year that is going to happen. So. I mean, it'll hurt so much.
Time's going to tell.
Right.
As media members, we try not to get too
attached.
Too attached.
It's hard because you see these kids every day, and especially after losses, you feel for them because it's what these fans on Twitter and all this stuff are just gonna bash them, and it's horrible. And it's you just kind of get connected with them because you see them every day and you talk to them every day, so. I mean, we can't. We're impartial, but at the same time, it's we kind of hope they win just because we want to see the I don't know really how to describe it, but we kind of want we just kind of want that to happen just for their sake because we know what they those seniors never experienced a win, and so
we want to see them win, but at the same time, we're not going to go and cheer for them. So. That's just really the bottom line with that. What do you think for a game prediction?
I really hate to do it because it's gonna.
You'll
I don't
probably
know,
get booed out.
Yeah, I'm thinking a low score game just because I think defenses will be a huge part. I'm thinking probably 24-17, 24-21, something real close. I think all those people who are I can't handle a close game will buckle up. It's going to be a close one. No matter what, I think it'll be a close one. No one's going to run somebody out.
Oh, yeah.
I just don't think each team's good enough to do that. Honestly, the East is wide open right now. These teams are all three teams Georgia, Florida, and Tennessee. The three teams who everybody talks about, they're struggling, and so I feel like this game's going to be a big a huge deciding who's going to win the SEC East and. I just, I think whoever makes it to the SEC championship, honestly, is going to get killed.
Steamrolled.
By Alabama.
Yeah.
Alabama is going, unless they show up real quick.
Yep.
Alabama's going to whoop them.
Yeah, and I missed the Alabama. I missed that by a long shot. I thought they'd struggle a little bit this year, but
They're not struggling.
They're proving me wrong.
Saban, man.
Yeah, they're
He's something else.
He is
something else.
and they're proving me wrong, and just I don't know. So do you think
It's
you
still
said it's a
pretty
low
good.
scoring?
I say it's pretty low scoring.
Yeah, who do you think wins though?
I think Tennessee wins.
Tennessee
I
wins?
do. I think it's the time. I think
Yeah.
it's the time. What do you think, Damichael?
I really don't know yet. I'm still.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
it's
kinda how
it's
I
a lot
feel
of
too,
things
yeah.
that I want to see.
Yeah.
I want to see what Bush says later on in the week about the offensive line and those type things. But I can give you a key. I think the key to this game really will be third down conversions and which team can pass the ball better.
Right.
I mean, it'll be that simple. I mean, everybody knows how this game's gonna go. It's gonna be physical and
It's going to be some fights.
right. It's gonna
Oh,
be
yeah.
emotions going on in
Oh,
this
yeah.
game, but third down conversions mainly should be the difference. Especially, I mean,
Tennessee's pretty good
Yeah.
too at third
Yeah.
down.
all right, yeah.
So I agree. Yeah, I feel it.
I agree with that. And that's something that people really don't think about. Third down conversions coming through
Because they can kill a defense too.
They
Like
can.
if they get 2, 3 in a row, then the defense is just like the defense getting tired. It
Yeah.
wears them down.
Right.
Yeah, but if Tennessee, were to go, 9 of 13 on third down conversions,
that's a win. Man.
that's pretty good. And we talked about Jalen Tabor being on. Is it Tabor or is it Tabor?
It's Tabor.
Tabor.
Is it
You're
Tabor?
really bad at
Yeah.
pronouncing names.
I can't
Just throwing
pronounce
that out
names.
there.
Tease
He
Tabor.
calls
Tease.
just real quick side note. He's over here yesterday.
Don't make fun of me.
Malik Foreman, suspended for the game.
Right.
Malik. He goes, who'd they say was hurt? It was suspended. Was it Malik? And I was like, who's
Oh,
Malik?
man.
And he goes, I was like, you mean Malik? And
What's-
he goes, no, Malik. And I was like, it's Malik. And he goes, oh,
Malik.
And I was like,
What's terrible is I know these names. Like I
Yeah.
know it's Malik, I know it's Micah Abernathy, but I'm still like McKay.
Yeah, he
and I'm
said
just-
McKay, and I was like,
and
"Are
I'm-
you serious
I
right
don't
now?"
know. But
Come on.
with Jalen there at corner for the Gators,
Oh, yeah.
and
Yeah. You thought Cam was
you
going to
thought
be
Cam
there.
was going to be that other spot, and you thought you'd really get to see a good cornerback matchup, and I really do hate it for Cam because
On TV, did they show? Could you tell? Because I know they showed the replay a couple times, and I really couldn't see.
Yeah.
Could you tell?
You could tell that it definitely was not a good injury.
Yeah.
Right.
And there was no him coming back in that game.
Right. But I think Balin Buchanan played well. He turned around, which
Yeah.
I talk about this every podcast. He
Yeah.
never. Emmanuel Mosley still,
And
hey, turn around once in a while.
I don't think the secondary struggles will really hurt them
No.
in this game.
I don't.
So that's
yeah.
that really won't hurt them as much against Florida because Florida doesn't have a really good passing
Especially
offense.
with the
They
backup,
haven't
yeah.
had one since who knows when.
Tebow.
So yeah, right,
Well, they didn't even really have that with
And-
two.
Yeah, that's true.
right. So
And with Del Rio and you have Callaway hurt for Florida,
Yeah.
who caught that touchdown pass last year to win the
yeah.
game. So
Yep.
I think it's going to be in the trenches, run.
Yeah.
And I think, but Balin Buchanan will be fine. I think he'll be fine. I hate this for Sutton just because it's his last year. He decided to come back and then he gets hurt and what looks to be
Yeah.
maybe a very serious injury, maybe
Yeah, I
a
mean,
broken bone. We don't know.
He may be out for the season here.
yeah, we
I mean,
just don't know.
not speculating or anything, but that definitely looked like
That's
a
a possibility,
season-ending
yeah.
injury. And if he is done for the season, 41 games,
He's been
41
an
starts.
unbelievable player.
great career, great
Yeah.
career.
Fantastic. One of the
Right.
one of the great Vols, I'd say.
And then in this decade, definitely.
Yeah, in this
Of course,
decade,
of course.
for sure.
He's done an unbelievable
Oh,
job.
yeah.
Coming in and starting as a
Yeah,
freshman.
would you put him on that all Vol
Yeah.
2000s
Right.
team?
Yeah, of course, of course,
Yeah,
yeah.
Eric Berry at safety, of course, and then
And Sutton's right there. at
Sutton
corner.
right there at corner.
Yeah.
He's definitely been a benchmark in the UT program for the last few years. But doesn't I guess switching gears a little bit now. I think Tennessee soccer plays Florida this week, don't they? Is that right?
Yeah, they have 2 road games coming
Two
up.
road
They
games.
have Georgia Thursday, and then they have Florida Sunday. Yeah.
Gosh.
Nice-
That's going to
nice.
be. I don't know much about women's soccer, but just Florida and Georgia. That ought to be. And they struggled a little bit. They won their first conference match 2-0
Yeah.
against
Yeah.
Missouri. You were there.
Right.
What'd
Yeah.
you see?
Well, this game was definitely the most interesting game of the season. Not by the score, but by Coach Coach Penske's changes he made throughout the game.
Mm-hmm.
This was the first game where they had a new starting back four, and they moved Maya Neal to the back four, and Kuhane, Maya Neal, Morrow, and they had their starting four basically.
Yeah.
They played pretty good, and I talked to Penske about it after the game, and he loved it. He said, "Why would I change this back?" Like
He's probably thinking, "Why didn't I do this in the first place?"
Right.
Yeah,
and their first SEC game they struggled. Gave up 5 goals to Alabama, and in this one they get a shutout. In the game before that against MTSU, they had a shutout as well. So I mean, things are definitely looking up, and he made some changes in the midfield too. Riley O'Keefe made her first start in the midfield, so. Things are looking
It'll be
up.
interesting to see. I know they've missed out on the SEC tournament last year. It'll be interesting to see if they can make it there this year.
I remember that.
Yeah, you covered soccer.
Yeah. Well,
the feeling.
Yeah, we're running low on time, but I will say this quick story. So last year they weren't the Lady Vols then. They had just become the Vols, and they were just one game out from making the SEC tournament. And, they were clinging to that 8th spot, tied for 8th, and you're thinking, well, if they win this one, they'll go to the SEC tournament and maybe, pull a miracle. And so they had to play South Carolina, who was a top 15 team, and you're thinking, okay, it's at South Carolina. I don't have class on Fridays, and this game's on a Thursday. I'm gonna try it. I left.
Dedication.
It was dedication.
Dedication was there.
I left UT's campus at 2:30. I got to South Carolina at like 6:30. Game started at 7. The Vols just got blown out, 4-0. It was a 4-0 loss. I went down to the field to talk to Brian Penske after the game, and he looked at me and kind of did a double take and said, "What are you doing here?" I said, "I'm dedicated, Coach." And he said, "Well, I appreciate it." And I did a quick little interview with him and had a story wrote up, and I left about 10:30, something like that, and stopped in an IHOP on the way home and got home at 3 o'clock, and I was just like, well, I can say I've been to South Carolina and never doing that again. So, hopefully the Vols can pull out a couple wins on the road this weekend, and hopefully, Vols football can pull out a win this weekend. I've not given my prediction for that. I say there's some people saying that they're going to go in and they're going to put up like 40, Clay Travis especially.
Which I could honestly...
I could see
the board opening up the playbook all of a sudden. Whoa, we have a second half of a playbook.
And then Tennessee winning like 45-0 or something.
Which I don't
crazy,
think that will happen.
But it won't. Yeah. I do think Tennessee wins. I think they win something kind of like this Ohio score, 28-19, 27-20, something along those lines. But that's what I think for the prediction for this week. So that's all the time we have today. Thank you guys so much for coming back this week and listening to us ramble about sports. We'll be back again next week, and either we're going to be really happy to talk about the Florida game, or we're going to be...
I might not be here. I don't know.
Yeah, we may need a box of tissues with us next week crying. So thank you guys so much for coming back, and we'll see you next week.